My name's Dane. I'm one of the founders of Catapult Games. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how many people here know what VR stands for? Raise your hand. Oh, almost everyone. And how many of you have experienced a virtual reality game or experience? Most of you. And how many of you actually own a VR headset? All right, some of you. That's good. All right. So, 2016 was the year that modern VR really took off. We saw 3 high-end VR headsets come onto the scene: Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and PlayStation VR. So, I actually experienced VR for the first time in December of 2016. My friend Chris got a PSVR for Christmas. I put it on and I was just blown away by the new technology. Instead of just looking at a screen and playing a game, the game is all around you, and it's just a whole new way to experience content. And I could tell it was going to change the world. And since then, the market has doubled in size each year, and you can see the adoption curve over there for VR is similar in scope to other technologies that eventually became mainstream, such as computers and cell phones. But there's a problem, which is that VR didn't quite live up to the hype. People thought there were going to be 100 million headsets sold in the first couple of years. Instead, we're approaching around 10 million headsets. So why is that? Well, from my perspective, there's a lack of content. There just really aren't major companies making games for VR, and most games you can beat in a couple hours. So as a result, the user engagement is down, and major companies just aren't making VR games. So this market needs a killer app, a game that is so accessible and fun that it makes people want to go out and buy their own headset. So we've been working for more than a year on our game. It's called Don't Look Down. Virtual reality climbing game like no other. You are climbing up a mountain, battling robots, smashing them on walls, finding power-ups, dashing through hidden rooms. It's unlike anything else on the market, and we found that people are really responding well to it. I have a quote from Palmer Luckey here, the founder of Oculus. He said, "VR is going to be defined by the content that is designed explicitly for virtual reality." And that's what we're trying to do here. So just briefly touch on the market opportunity. You can see each year, that's how many headsets were sold that year, broken down by Rift, Vive, or PSVR, and it's growing. We're approaching, in 2018, by the end of this year, a $2.2 billion market for virtual reality games. We think with our game, we could feasibly capture around 24 million from that. So we're not the first VR climbing game. There are 3 other games that came out before in the same genre: Climby, To the Top, and The Climb. And I've played all of them, and they're pretty fun, but in all of them, you're just climbing from point A to point B. And we wanted to take it further with unique platforming elements inspired by classic platformers like Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong Country, and I think there's an interesting parallel you can draw with a game called Super Hot. It's one of my favorite VR games. It's a first-person shooter where time only moves when you move. So you can see people attacking you, someone starts shooting at you, you can actually physically duck under a bullet and destroy the enemies. And it reinvented the first-person shooter genre, and that's what we're trying to do with the climbing genre, with elements of action games, racing games, platforming games, combined into one great experience. And while there is some competition, the game industry is actually really collaborative. I was in California about a month ago for Oculus Connect. I heard Mark Zuckerberg tell us about what's coming next with the hardware, and I made friends with people from some of the top VR companies. Oculus, which made the Rift, Quest, and Go, they're giving us feedback on our locomotion. making sure that people feel really comfortable in our game. Some of you know Insomniac Games. They made Ratchet and Clank, Spyro, the new Spider-Man game, and some really great VR games. They're teaching us about game design, making this game design better. Alchemy Labs made the first hit VR game, Job Simulator. They made a Rick and Morty game, Virtual Reality, known for absurd levels of polish, helping us out with that. And Servios made Raw Data, one of my favorite games. I know the 3D artist there, and he's helping us out with our art design. So on the team, Chris is my co-founder. He's our game systems architect, our game director. He built most of the code base and our early levels, laid the foundation for our game. I'm the business director. I split my time between designing levels and marketing the game, making sure it gets in front of the right people know about our game. Hillel Pryor, he's our art director. He builds our art assets, implements them, makes animations, and he can also write really great code. And Kelsey's our brand manager. She makes sure that our image remains consistent. So we've had some good traction. Currently, with our alpha release, we are the top VR game on itch.io. Out of around 1,500 games, we're right at the top, and that's really gratifying. We were interviewed by Spectrum News. We're currently featured in 18 VR arcades around the world, and raised more than $50,000, graduated from Reveal and Ignite U, and we're working on some partnerships, most notably working on a plan for American Ninja Warrior, see if we can get a game together for them. So if we can get 100,000 downloads at $30, we're going to make $3 million with this game. And there's numerous other enterprise applications, including some medical benefits people are finding with VR. If you're wearing a VR headset, studies are showing you can actually feel 50% less pain, as well as helping with people with cerebral palsy and other conditions. So there's a lot of potential there. So I'll close with a basic ask here. I would love if all of you would try out our game. We're setting up in this corner here. See for yourself. See if you enjoy the game. See if you enjoy VR. Also, we're currently hiring a game programmer. If you have any Unreal Engine experience, we're looking to grow our team. Please follow us on social media at Catapult Games VR on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can stay up to date on what we've been working on. And please buy a VR headset, especially if you like the game. You'll be able to try plenty of other games and get our game when it comes out. The Oculus Go is $200 standalone headset, and coming out next year is the Oculus Quest for $400, which is going to have 2 motion-tracked hand controllers, 6 degrees of freedom, basically the same functionality as all the high-end headsets, but without needing an external source to power it. So I think that's really going to transform the industry, and I look forward to hearing about how much all of you love VR. So there's my contact information. I'll just close with a quote from our favorite Twitch streamer. One of the best games that I've played in VR, Don't Look Down is going to be the next big thing. I highly recommend Don't Look Down. So thank you. Any questions? Yes?
People get vertigo when they're playing a game like that, specifically when they're like looking down.
Are you asking if people get vertigo?
Do people like experience vertigo when they're playing a game such as that?
Yeah, so some people do actually feel motion sickness or vertigo when they're playing games, and there's ways to address that. Our choice to use climbing as our locomotion mechanic is great because it syncs up what your body is doing with what your mind thinks you're doing for a very smooth experience. If you are just pressing an analog stick to walk forward, that will make you feel sick because it doesn't make sense to you. But something where you're actually moving your hands does have a better translation. Any more questions? Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the incorporation of sound elements and music into your games?
Sure. So sound design is a huge part of the game. You want pretty much every interaction that you have within the game to feel gratifying, both with visual elements, the haptic feedback, the vibrations you feel in your hand, and whatever audio elements to indicate. For example, when there's a spike shooter that's shooting projectiles, you'll hear a sound when that's firing. Or we have an enemy and spikes come out of its body, you'll hear a shoot sound when the spikes extend. And that's very important to indicate to the player the threat that might be impending to them. Or when something good happens, you can hear a celebratory sound, that sort of thing. Yes?
Just kind of along the same line as that gentleman's question. So if there's sort of a projectile coming from over here, and you turn towards it, can you sync the sound?
Yeah, there's a spatialization of audio. So the system is tracking your head and your hands. So it actually knows where you're looking, and the game will respond accordingly.
Cool.
All right, thank you all so much.